So the Mind series involving Arsenal, Chelsea and Tottenham, a series of pre-season games for the Mind mental health charity kicked off this weekend with a double header, Arsenal versus Chelsea, the women and the men. This is over and over and over again. Hello, my name is Richard. Welcome back to my channel over and over and over again, which features everything to do with Arsenal. As I say in this video, we're going to look back on yesterday's double header between Arsenal and Chelsea at the Emirates Stadium. Of course, the women played first, followed by the men. Two mixed results, of course, as we will come on to, as I'm sure you're aware. Anyway, just before I get into all that, I'd just like to make sure that you are subscribing to the channel. If you do enjoy what I do, you like some different Arsenal content, no real agendas on here. It's just a matter of looking at match reviews. I do live shows, watch-alongs, everything to do with Arsenal, featuring the women as well. Please click on the subscribe button down in the corner there. It is free of charge. It does help the channel to grow. If you do enjoy this video, please give it a like as well. Share the content around. And if you've got any comments at all to make about yesterday's Mind matches against Chelsea, please drop me in the comments box below, as I do love to hear from you guys as well. So we'll start with the main event then, the men's game against the European champions Chelsea in what was our fifth friendly of the pre-season. And of course, while we didn't get the result that we wanted, there were some positives and some negatives to take from the game, which we will look at very, very shortly. Just to start with then, the team lineup that we had for this game was in goal, Bernd Leno, the back fours, Chambers at right back, Holding Amari in the centre and Kieran Tierney at left back. The midfield pivots were El Neni and Partey. Smith Rowe was in the number 10 position, and the front three was Pepe on the right, Aubameyang on the left and Lacazette through the middle. So it was a pretty strong Arsenal side actually. Maybe one or two of the main players are still coming back from their summer break. Bukayo Saka, of course, Martinelli, who of course have played through the summer as well, and also as well, of course, the injured Gabriel in defence. Our three new signings, of course, Ben White, Tavares and Lokonga were all on the bench in this game, although they would all come on in the second half and make an impact. So the positives then, I suppose, has to be overall we played pretty well. We created a good few opportunities, hit the woodwork. We're unfortunate to get what looked like a perfectly good goal disallowed at the end when Joe Willock's shot rebounded in off the underside of the crossbar, very similar to Frank Lampard, of course, in the World Cup against Germany back in 2010. For some reason, the goal line technology wasn't switched on for this game, being a friendly, and it wasn't given. So perhaps, you know, a 2-2 draw may well have probably been a fair result. Chelsea, again, we're missing one or two players like we were, and overall it was a good performance from Arsenal. Yes, we missed a few chances and there were still the same old problems. We were very wide open at the back, especially in the first half. Changed a little bit in the second half when Ben White came on. Really good to see his debut. I thought he played really well, looked good on the ball, made a couple of good blocks as well to prevent Chelsea scoring. So good signs there from our £50 million man, a good debut from him. And then later on in the game, I thought Lokonga, when he came on, looked good as well in midfield. Again, he played well, didn't he, the other day against Watford. Looks a really good player, actually. I think we've done well with that signing. Tavares at left back still needs work defensively. But again, I think he's added a little bit extra to the squad in a position that we needed to. So that's a positive as well. Granit Xhaka coming on. The news that he may be staying at the club now, I know it's not going to make too many Arsenal fans happy. Personally, I'm not bothered about that at all. I think he's been a good player for us, and he played well yesterday, didn't he? Getting the goal, of course, with a good header from a corner. Actually played well again, didn't he? Despite the fact he's only had 2 training sessions since returning from the Euros. So they were the positives for me, really. Good performance overall. Some good individual performances, especially from the new signings, which is always good to see. And of course, the biggest positive was over 20,000 fans in the Emirates to enjoy the game. So as for the negatives then, I mean, there's always going to be them, isn't there, with this current Arsenal side. We were wide open at the back in the first half, and mistakes again have cost us the 2 goals. Really poor defending for the first goal, and then the second goal, of course, trying to play it out from the back. Hector Bellerin, who'd come on at right back, a terrible pass straight to Tammy Abraham, and he wasn't going to miss, was he? So bad goals to concede, and again, for all our decent possession at times, we're still lacking a real cutting edge, aren't we? Aubameyang, although he did play quite well yesterday, he's still not scoring goals, is he? That's 5 pre-season games against opposition that you would imagine he would have banged a few goals against. Hasn't managed to score yet. That's a worrying sign after the season he had last year. We really do need Aubameyang to be firing in the goals again. I thought he actually looked quite good on the left-hand side, and maybe that position maybe suits him a bit better, but with players like Martinelli and Xhaka to come back into the squad, is he going to get to play in that position that often unless he starts scoring the goals? So that's a bit of a worry still. I thought El Neni in midfield, as much as we all like him, as much as he works hard, he's not quite good enough, is he? And let's be honest, at the moment with the squad that we've got, we are severely lacking in midfield. Of course, the biggest negative has to be the injury to Thomas Partey. He'd been playing well actually in the first half an hour or so. He'd been one of our better players, and that's the sort of Thomas Partey that we want to see this season. Hopefully the injury is not as bad as it looked, and hopefully he'll be back to play in the final friendly next week, and certainly back for the Brentford game. Let's hope. But of course, worst case scenario is he may miss the first 4 or 5 games of the season, which would be a concern because we don't have a lot of depth in that position, and we could well start the season at Brentford with El Neni now having to play in midfield. Whether this will push the club into buying another midfield player, I don't know, or maybe Lokonga, who has looked good, can step up if needed in these opening games of the season, but we'll see. Defensively, again, we're all over the place. Too many gaps, especially in that first half. It was better when Ben White came on. You could see the difference he's probably going to make for us, and of course Gabriel's still got to come in as well. So yes, obviously there's negatives. We lost the game again. That's still only 2 wins out of our 5 pre-season games. Not really what we would have wanted. I know the results don't matter in pre-season, but it's about building confidence, and unfortunately we're not really able to do that at the moment. And this performance overall was probably very similar to a lot of games that we saw last season, and unless we're going to improve on that, we're not going to do much better in the season, are we? So lots to work on still, but it's not all doom and gloom, is it? We've got another game coming up next week against Tottenham. Let's hope that we can show some improvements then, and who knows, maybe 1 or 2 new players arriving as well. So we move on to the women's game then. Good result actually against Chelsea side, of course, the WSL current champions. Yes, the game was a strange one because a lot of the top players from both sides were still away at the Olympics. So Arsenal were missing several important players, such as, of course, Miedemeijer, who's still in the Olympics for Holland, and of course the Team GB representatives as well. So it was a little bit of a strange lineup for both sides. But the Arsenal team was a fairly strong side, probably the strongest side we could have started with in the circumstances. So this was how the Arsenal women lined up. It was Innsberger in goal. The back four was Patton, Goldie, new signing Boy making her debut as well. Good to see. And Emirates was at left back. The 3 in midfield, it was Jordan Nobbs, Valti, and another newcomer, a new arrival making their debut was Manon in midfield, and then the front 3 was Evans, Mead and McCabe. So it was pretty much the strongest Arsenal women's team that we could have expected. Of course, the new manager, Jonas Eidelsveen, wasn't available to be at the game because he's still quarantining following his arrival from Sweden. And actually, the Chelsea manager, Emma Hayes, wasn't there either, as she was feeling under the weather. So a little bit of a strange atmosphere around the game. A lower crowding, of course, because it was the early start. But overall, Arsenal played pretty well, especially in the first half. Dominated the game, really. Had a lot of joy down the left-hand side. It was no surprise when we took the lead. It was McCabe, of course, Katie McCabe, probably our player of the season last year. Fantastic she is. It was a good play actually down the right-hand side from the new side in Manham. She got to the byline, pulled the ball back, and McCabe's shot was deflected into the top corner for about 6 or 7 yards. A good start from Arsenal. We had 1 or 2 other chances as well to have increased our lead in the first half. So I thought we played pretty well. The only downside really was the injury to Jordan Nobbs. Of course, she's not long back from a bad knee injury that kept her out of the World Cup in 2019. This looks like an ankle injury caught by Cuthbert from Chelsea. And that was a blow, seeing her go off on a stretcher. Let's hope the injury isn't as bad as feared, because she's an important player for the team. She was captain, of course, yesterday with the absence of Kim Little, and I think it'll be heartbreaking for her if she had to miss another long period of time. So let's hope that's not as bad as it seemed. Then midway through the second half, both teams made 9 changes, so it was basically all academy players that came on, and it was good to see the young guys get opportunities on the pitch at the Emirates. Must have been a great experience for them, but it did lead to a rather scrappy game actually in the second part of the second half. Chelsea did get level with about 12 minutes to go. It was one of their young substitutes, Rihanna Blades, capitalised on a mistake at the back on halfway. Good goal actually. She ran through, cut inside and finished well, and that made it 1-1. And Chelsea actually were getting on top at that point. Good save from Zinsberger actually with her legs after that to keep it at 1-1. But then just 5 minutes to go, Arsenal did get the winner. Not always nice to beat Chelsea, and it was good to see one of the young academy players, Freya Yupp it was, who got the goal. Good finish as well, a nice first touch, and then a strike across the goal kick with her left foot into the far corner. A really good finish, great moment for her to score the winner at the Emirates, because we don't beat Chelsea very often, do we, these days? So it was a good result, it was a good run out. So not really too sure what we can read into the season, but it was good to see maybe a different style of play from the new manager already being implemented, a high intensity, high pressing game, and let's hope if we do that throughout the season, could be a really successful season for the Arsenal women. So that's that then, my look back on those two games yesterday in the first of the Mind Series games. Of course, Chelsea and Spurs play in midweek before we then travel to Tottenham next weekend. Again, it's a double header with the women playing. This time it's the men playing first and then the women after. So hopefully there might be a bigger crowd in to see the women's game after that, but we'll see what happens with that. I think it's important for the men particularly to bounce back and get a result. Obviously, it's never nice to lose to Tottenham, is it, in any game? No game against Tottenham is really a friendly. So let's hope we can go out there. Maybe Xhaka might be back in the squad as well. It'd be great to see him, and Martinelli as well, possibly. So it'd be really good to see some of these other guys back in. And hopefully, I'll say we do need one or two signings as well. For the women, we might see some of the Team GB players back as well, having obviously been knocked out of the Olympics just a few days ago. So they may well be back, may play some part in that game. So lots to look forward to. Obviously, I will be doing some coverage of those games again on the channel. Please stay tuned in because we've got some good stuff coming up this week. Tomorrow night, of course, sees the return of the Tuesday Club. Some great guests coming on. A lot to talk about, obviously, these games here, pre-season, some other issues as well in terms of players that maybe we thought were leaving and may well now be offered new contracts, people like Granit Xhaka, even Hector Bellerin. So lots to talk about. So that's going live at 7:30 tomorrow. So please join us for that. And then we'll be building up towards the Tottenham game, of course, on Sunday. So there'll be some coverage there as well. So stay tuned for that as well. And then, of course, after that, we're heading into the start of the season, aren't we? So we'll be looking ahead to the Brentford game. I've got a former Arsenal and Brentford player coming on, Isaiah Rankins, been on the channel before. He's coming on to help us preview that game. Other guests as well. So loads coming up on the channel. If you haven't done so already, please get the subscribe button down in the corner there. It's free of charge. It helps the channel to grow. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a like. Please share the content around. And say, drop your comments in the box what you made of those games yesterday against Chelsea, what you want to see us do between now and the start of the season in the transfer window, anything else at all. It'd be great to hear from you guys. I say stay tuned to the channel. Thanks for watching. Thanks for your support. And of course, in the meantime, as always, as we head towards this North London derby next week, always a big game that, isn't it? Regardless if it's a friendly, it's a big game and we have to win. Come on, you Gunners!
What?